Microcasting for your city. Talkapolis.
Bandwidth for today's show is brought to you by softlayer.com. We love Softlayer here at Talkapolis. They are the greatest hosting company ever. They make everything easy. Check out their website at softlayer.com. Thanks again for sponsoring the show. Also by Nashville Violins, the string player's #1 choice for their string instrument needs. Nashville Violins offers everything from lessons to repairs. Make sure you check them out at nashvilleviolin.com.
You're watching Voices of Experience. Hi everybody, our guest today is Jim Reilley, right here on Voices of Experience. I'm your host, Greta Gaines. Welcome, Jim, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. You are a songwriter, producer, musician. You've been in town for 25 years in Nashville, is that right?
15 actually. Okay. 15 years here. I've been doing professional, or what some people call professional, if you're making any money at all.
Yeah.
But been here for 15. Yeah.
Those little checks that come in the mail sometimes, like I'll get like a little BMI check or something, and it'll be like for $40. It's like literally the happiest money that I've ever made in my life.
Yeah, it moves you to the next place.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about writing for other people, because you have had cuts for Vince Gill, Hal Ketchum. How did you go about getting your songs cut when you first got here? Well,
when I first got to town, it was I got a publishing deal pretty quickly at Curb Publishing, and I was there for 8.5 years, I guess, and had been writing primarily for my own band, the New Dillons, before that. And when I got here, it was just kind of like the natural sort of progression to. Basically, I just wrote songs that I thought I would like to sing, and hopefully someone else maybe would as well. And then I kind of got into the co-writing thing, which is kind of more the game here. And that was never really comfortable, but it was something that I figured I'd better do. That's part of the reason they hired me. And so I ended up having some really good experiences. The songs that Jack Ingram cut and Hal Ketchum cut were co-writes with them. And so it was a natural sort of thing, writing with an artist, as natural as it can be when you show up at 10:30 and you're supposed to be creative in this room. In room 103 today, you're supposed to be creative. But, I understood it. I understood that was part of the game, and so I, went along with it. And I enjoyed it, but I got burnt out pretty quickly. 8 years is pretty quickly to me. And so I took a couple years away from the co-writing thing, but I've maintained a solo writing all along, and now I'm in a new publishing deal.
Yeah, let's talk about the new publishing deal. Is that at Rare Spark Media?
It is in Berry Hill, and I just started with them actually last couple weeks. So
primarily geared towards the country cuts. Are you able to write?
Yeah, I'm writing pop and folky pop stuff. I'm doing another project of my own, which is a solo record, and I may even do another New Dillons. We may even do a New Dillons reunion. Not that anyone's asked for it, but we're gonna.
I want to hear. I never got to see it the first time.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when you do a reunion and no one's asking for a reunion. But
that's what I'm thinking about my next album. I'm just gonna call it Greatest Hits. And be like, where was I for all the other ones?
My friend Dean Miller did one called Platinum.
Yeah. Oh, I know hilarious. Dean. Yeah, from back in the day.
And that was
I did a co-write with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never finished it, but.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, he's a good guy and a solid writer, solid singer too. And
New Dillons, though. Tell me about that band.
Well, we started in where I'm from, is upstate New York, western Pennsylvania, near where 10,000 Maniacs are from. Yeah. And in 1985, when they were starting, or they were kind of becoming what they ended up becoming great, we figured, well, if they could do it, we could do it. So my partner Reese and I started a band and actually roped in John and Jerry from the Maniacs to play on our first record. And Natalie was a fan from the get-go, and sort of passed it along to Michael Stipe from REM, and Michael became a big fan, and that helped. But it was a different time then. If you had an album, a vinyl album back then, it was like, wow. Now every barista at the coffee shop has 2, albums. They've got like a greatest hits CD already. But back then, if you had an album, it was a pretty big deal. And our first EP that we pressed up on our own label, we were doing an independent label in 1985, and kind of following the Maniacs pattern. I mean, they had 2 records on their own label before they got signed to Elektra. But we did it, and Robert Christgau from the Village Voice picked it as one of the top 5 albums of 1985, which blew our minds. And Michael Stipe started talking about it, and so we did what everybody in that position does. We broke up.
I was going to say, we bought a house and a bass boat.
Yeah, of course, none of that, because there was no money to be had. But the Maniacs had just kind of taken off with Elektra, and they were doing their thing, and so we tried to sort of put together a band, but in our little hometown there wasn't really anyone else that wanted to leave their factory jobs to take a chance like that. So we broke up and got back together again a few years later in 1992 and got signed to Red House Records in Minneapolis and did a toured all through the 90s, opening for the band, and got to open for the Maniacs and people like that, and had a good run, but it's exhausting, and there's no money, and it's just 200 nights a year in a van with people you maybe wouldn't rather be with.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I mean,
So what about when these upstarts come to you and want some advice? What do you tell them about this business?
Well, I'm honest with them and tell them, that it's not easy, and it's amazing how little people really think that you need to go out and do what we've done, and go out and make your bones and go out there and play music for people. I mean, it's pretty simple. Even now with the way things are, with the there's not as many venues anymore, and there's a lot less record sales, and actually I'd have killed for some of the internet exposure that we never had, of course, because it was a different time. I tell kids that nowadays kids can get on the cell phone, text the club owner, say when's sound check. Back then we had to drive to find a payphone, and to hopefully catch the club owner to get into the club. So I mean, those kind of things are totally different now. And having the internet and having marketing like that, even though the sales have maybe fallen off a little bit, for touring bands, it's still kind of the way to do it.
Do you think people care about live music as much as they did?
I'd like to hope so. I mean, I think that it's still kind of a follow-through. I mean, if you're playing music and you make music, I would, even a new band, I'd love to go see. I hope so. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who do go see live music here, and young people, and that's encouraging. And I think it's probably the best time. In some ways, it's the best time. It's like the Wild West now. The internet made everything. I mean, if you could get on iTunes and you have some kind of promotional machine behind you, whether it's just grassroots Facebook or Reverb Nation or whatever, or word of mouth, something, the street team, whatever they call it now, and people can go to iTunes and buy your record. When we put out albums back in the 90s, if the record store didn't stock your record, they couldn't buy your record,
right,
or know to buy it. So yeah. I'm encouraged by it all, and I think it's it's positive for some aspects of the business. Granted, if you're just a songwriter and you're expecting royalties, that's different. You know. And
yeah, but you've always done both.
Yeah.
When have you ever just really listened to an artist and known that they were looking for something when you haven't been writing with the artist themselves, and tried to come up with things that you think sound like that artist, or do you just write your songs and hope that somebody?
Yeah, I was reading a biography about Jimmy Webb, who I admire greatly, and also even Burt Bacharach and writers like Carole King, writers that I grew up loving. And they were pretty mercenary about it. I mean, I initially was like, no, I'm never going to just listen to a song and try and write something just like that. But, some of the people I looked up to as writers were all about that, in the Brill Building and that sort of thing. That was what they did, and they were mercenary about it. So I have in some ways. I mean, I feel like if I'm writing a song with somebody and it feels like a quote-unquote so-and-so song, then I'd encourage our publisher to maybe pitch it that way, or maybe we demo it sort of more in that direction. But there's another thing that happens too, where a lot of artists, when they're trying to do something, move out of a box and do something different, and you pitch them a song that you think they want to hear, and they're trying to move on to a different direction. It's like a mind game, So in a way, you just kind of try and write the best song and make a demo that sounds like maybe that it should let the song tell you what the demo is supposed to sound like, and so that's kind of what I do personally. But there are plenty of people who've had way more success doing it the other way, and so that's just not me.
Right.
That's people that write. They go and buy the Martina McBride album and listen to it and just say, "This is the chord changes. This is what we just flipped this."
Themes and yeah.
That's just not my thing. But there's plenty of people who do that very well.
Well, it's speaking of the best song, are you going to play us a new song today?
I'll play you a new song. Yeah, I don't know if it's the best one, but I'll play you a new one.
Best one we're going to hear today.
Okay, yeah, the best one you're going to hear from me right now. Let's put it that way.
What's it called?
Maybe the best and worst. It's called the Leavin Kind. Could have been all you ever wanted, as long as you didn't want too much. But every place I go now just seems haunted, and I still wear you like a crutch. A worn out dream is chasing me, movie that I can't unsee. You should be gone, gone, goner than a circus, leaving town, not hiding in the shadows, hanging around, still drawing crazy circles in my mind. Funny how your memory, they ain't the leaving kind. The things around here are still the same, yeah, but it's all so different now. And I still play my greatest hit, Regrets. They don't sound the same somehow. If I could only kill the way I feel, then you'd have nothing left to steal, and you'd be gone, gone, goner than a circus, leaving town, not hiding in the shadows, hanging around, still drawing crazy circles in my mind. Funny how your memory ain't the leaving kind. I hear people laughing, I hear people call it moving on. But for me it's more like I'm just barely getting through. For now, I guess that's just gonna have to do, until you're gone, gone, goner than a circus, leaving town, not hiding in the shadows, hanging around, still drawing crazy circles in my mind. Funny how your memory ain't the leaving kind.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to be singing that all day.
Oh, thanks.
I'm going to have to cut that song.
Okay, please do. Please do.
Jim Reilley right here on Voices of Experience, the Leavin Kind. Beautiful song.
Thank you very much.
Man.
Thanks.
All right, check us out next time right here at Talkapolis.
Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis.